All right, folks, in cyberspace, again, this is Focus on Liberia, and we are having a one-on-one with Advocate Franklin K. Wesseh. Franklin K. Wesseh is a long-time advocate now, and he has been in the spotlight advocating on the issues of justice and accountability, and we couldn't be so happy to have him. Again, Mr. Wesseh, now we want to know who is Mr. Franklin K. Wesseh.
Okay, thank you once more, Anthony. And let me register my apology for the little, interruption we had in the background. But I think, and I just hope it is okay now. Is it much better?
Yeah, it is. It is okay.
Okay. So Franklin Kase Wesseh, a proud son of River G County, Liberia, born onto the union of Miss Helena O'Connor and Mr. Mustafa Kase Wesseh, deceased. I am the first of 8 children, and I'm a rights advocate. I am the chairman emeritus of the Center for the Exchange of Intellectual Opinions, the biggest face-to-face intellectual platform in Monrovia. I am the co-chairman for the Citizens Action for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court, the first institution or organization that is on record to have petitioned the National Legislature for the establishment of War Crimes Court in 2018, to be precise, May 8. And I'm also the Deputy Country Director under the auspices of the International Justice Group for War Crimes Court in Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Wesseh. Mr. Wesseh, right there. And folks in cyberspace who have joined us, we will ask you to hit that share button and share the show with your friends so that we all can have this one-time opportunity, maybe, with Advocate Franklin K. Wesseh. Sorry. And for today, our conversation will have 3 focus points. The first will be VP Joel Howard Taylor versus the WIA administration. And the second segment of our conversation will be on the fight against corruption in Liberia, specifically under this current administration. And also, we will be talking about the politics of the War and Economic Crime Court. As you all know, folks, in cyberspace, the War and Economic Crime Court has been around, and we all have been advocating for it. Many Liberians, when I say we, have been advocating for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. The War and Economic Crime Court is one of the major things that was recommended by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. That will be the last segment of our conversation. But in order not to waste your time, let's go to the first segment of our conversation, which is Joel Howard Taylor versus the WIA administration. Folks in cyberspace, as you are all aware, Joel Howard Taylor is the current Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. She and President WIA ran on the same ticket. They campaigned together. They had a political marriage, and she went to the people of Bon County and introduced them to George WIA as the man of change. And then they got elected. And then they started work. In less than 2 years, or in less than 1 year, so to speak, that marriage got politically sour, and things have been falling apart. And things are more than now under control, to the point that the vice president boycotted or threatened to boycott legislative functions. The vice president for so many times now have not gone to work. She even wrote a letter to the first branch of government complaining about a lot of things. So she also has accused the CDC government of trying to get rid of her. Sometimes she said that many occasions she attempted to even resign. So a lot of things have been happening. And even the VP herself make a lot of news when they took over, and she said that, some people need to join the CDC, and if they didn't do, maybe they will not be on the good side. So a lot of things have been happening, and we'll be getting into all the details. No other better person to have brought for you here to have this conversation other than Mr. Wesseh. Mr. Wesseh, so now we have just given you a synopsis of the entire saga that been going between the ruling government and the vice president. What's going through your mind, because this thing been around for long? What has been going through your mind, first of all?
Yes, thank you. And I am honored to be a partaker of this intellectual communion. And permit me to share my own candid thoughts on the topics under discussion. The alarm raised by Vice President Joy Howard Taylor is appalling, and it is one that has the proclivity of exposing our country to public ridicule. It has already, amidst all of the huge public outcries of economic woes and other stuff, to find the vice president of a country, lamenting that she's been deprived of her just benefits is something that needs to draw the attention of every well-meaning Liberian, and I am no exception. Whilst it is true that I may not be an admirer of the marriage, amongst the CDC, the LPDP, and the NPP, I came to terms with the fact that we went to elections, we elected our leaders. The Liberian people spoke in a very loud tone, and today we have a leadership which I think in my mind is supposed to do nothing short of representing the general good of the citizenry of Liberia. But I've got some fundamental reservations with the governance of the state. Before I can speak to Madam Vice President's, lamentation of being deprived of our just benefits, she's also on record at a point in time telling Liberians, specifically when she went home in Bong County, that if you want to be a part of the show, you've got to join the CDC. If you don't join the CDC, count yourself out of the national cake. I mean, I'm not quoting her verbatim, but I'm painting a picture of what she actually meant to say. I thought that was a very harsh statement coming from a person who is supposed to be a leader. But then today, that has gone down, so badly with the Liberian people. So you wouldn't find too many people, really sympathizing with her current situation. Even a lot of people will say, but that is what she bargained for. That is what she craved for which she was forcing every Liberian to be a citizen. So good for her. But again, on the broader spectrum, looking at it from a global perspective, this is so mind-boggling. How can the vice president of a country come in a public sphere and paint an ugly picture of what is obtaining? In my mind, if the vice president and the president were having a good, rapport, if they were relating as they ought to, because mind you now, they all came under one ticket, and they all are from one particular political arrangement, I don't think there should be a reason why the vice president will come to the public and say, hey, look, my security details have been reduced. I don't have fuel in my car. My immunities are not coming. I cannot function properly as a vice president. No. So the fact that she could muster the impetus to speak to this publicly presupposes that there is a serious problem or an internal wrangling within the CDC. People laughed at former Vice President Joseph Boyka when he, understanding the model operandi of the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, he told the Liberian people that he was like a parked car, and people made mockery of it. Whilst I'm not, a member of the United Party, but I think I kind of empathize with that assertion, because our constitution is clear. The role of the vice president is, to a larger extent, really minimum, and you have little and not much to do. But with Madam Joy Howard Taylor, even from her own lamentation, in just less than 2 years, she is like, so I think for her, former Vice President Bouaka was a packed car, but I think she is a dismantled car. The engine is removed, meaning that car cannot even move again. That's how it seems. You cannot expect cohesion in the governance of the state when these kind of alarming reports are coming from a person such as the Vice President of the Republic. Then the question is, should we believe, because there have been a lot of allegations and gossips associated with what she's lamenting today. We are aware that somebody will say, don't give it credence because it was just an audio recording, but somebody who does, I don't really take lightly to those kind of things, because if we heard an audio recording from the superintendent of Bon County, saying that there was a kind of a plot to get rid of the vice president, for which she was suspended and later recalled. And today, we also heard, the chairman of the ruling establishment, Mr. Molbake Molu, in a kind of a quote-unquote liquor talk, saying that there are plans to remove the vice president and have her replaced, with the baby elephant, or Bagubet Jr., who is the port manager, Mr. Bill Twewe. You then have got good reason to say, look, I think this vice president is making some serious assertions, and we must, let it currency. It's not something we must place under the carpet. She, as a vice president, is entitled to her just benefit. Her just benefits just as the president, and just as any public official. I might have my own, issues with her as a person, but hell, I would not support any act that will undermine her function as vice president of the Republic of Liberia. Just as the president will want to wake up every morning and have his security details, and wouldn't have to complain about gasoline, and wouldn't have to complain about his allowances, and wouldn't have to complain about his basic communities, so should be the case with the vice president.
All right, let me jump in yet, Mr. Wesseh, and thank you, first of all, for putting that out. The vice president, anybody would think that she might have tried to find a resolution internally, and she did not get that resolution, because you are aware, I want to believe, of a communication she sent to the Senate requesting them to intervene.
Sure.
So there is a woman, in my opinion, who is being politically tortured and subdued to the point that she more like abandon her responsibility. Don't you see those as legitimate reasons? And also she cited issues of security that you were talking about. At some point, she felt that she didn't feel secure to go to some meeting as late or as early as 1 a.m. What do you think? Do you share her opinions with that?
I certainly do, Anthony. I certainly do, and I think well, many Liberians will share same. I don't think our economic situation is so bad to an extent that these kind of conditions will be visited, upon the vice president. Governance is a kind of a teamwork, and every member of a government has got a pivotal role to play in steering the affairs of the state. The vice president, no matter the economic woes, as I indicated initially, is entitled to her just benefits. You generate revenue, you apportion budgets to ministries, land agencies, to individuals, with respect to their various positions. the vice president should not be that person who a cloud of insecurity will hang over. And one thing the CDC has got to understand, or President Weah has got to understand, because he is the head of state, you could not win elections in Liberia until you went into a marriage with the NPP and to some extent the LPDP. There is no record of you winning elections in Liberia as an individual political party. So to exhume, the leadership of the state and start or wanting to behave or conduct yourselves as though you are still the Congress of Democratic Change that won the elections, that is a myth, and that will not land on a fertile soil. We as critics will erect the necessary checkpoints. You were able to take, the leadership of the state through that very marriage. And so the marriage has got to be respected. We have been hearing too often about wranglings and gross disregard to other members of the, other two political parties that went into the marriage with you, that they are being marginalized, that they are not having their own fair share of the cake, and that you are making job acquisition, job appropriations and other stuff, like basically, on the line of the Congress of Democratic Change. Whilst it is true, you may have one or two from the other political parties that went into the marriage with you. You must, as a matter of fact, respect the marriage you went into, because those are terms that you all agree to. Other than that, it's to your own peril. Because mind you, Vice President, Joel Howard Taylor is an individual, but there is so much she brings to the table. She is the standard bearer of the National Patriotic Party that went into the marriage with you. And you and I know too well than to be told how impactful and how much influence the National Patriotic Party has in Liberia. So any attempt to make her to continually feel this way, and let us just assume but not admit that about 2023 you go to the elections and removing her to replace her with one Victory, whose primary objective is to just inflate his pockets, you are going to create a serious problem within your marriage. And that has the propensity of dealing you a harder blow, as there will be very stiff oppositions against you in 2023. Trust me. So the internal rankings within the Coalition for Democratic Change is not all going well. And the sooner it draws the attention of members of the Congress for Democratic Change, the better.
All right. Let me take you back a little bit. Let's look at the issue of the VP enumeration of benefits, salary. And she was very strong and serious about this. Other people believe that she is not a good example on this. Why it is true that legally or constitutionally, she is due her just benefits. Mm-hmm. But this government is her making. She, the one who produced the government. Ordinary civil servants are now boycotting their jobs. And then for the vice president, who should be providing leadership, working around the clock for ordinary citizens to get their pay, to boycott, some people feel that she's not been a leader at all. Why can't she show up to work as president of the Senate and call the officials in government responsible to make salary current and ask the necessary questions and make them to do that? Why couldn't she do that and she go about crying and staying away from work? That is not leadership. What do you think?
Well, I may partly agree with you that as a public servant, you have to place country above self. But again, you want to ask what's actually responsible for this. You will not have a situation where this vice president is always feeling undermined, is always feeling insecure, with all of the gossips coming, out of the corridors, that speak to, wanting her removed. And she continues to bear some of what she's been bearing. it is about time that she probably, let the public know what is going on with her. And I think that's what she actually demonstrated. Because Vice President Joel Howard Taylor had been a senator for over 9 years before she even became a vice president. I think she is financially potent. I don't think it has come to a point that she is cash strapped. But hey, she's raising these concerns because that's her just benefit and she's entitled to it. Why is it the president will be, entitled to his just benefit and the second in command of the country will be lamenting? This is a very bad practice and must not be, encouraged. I mean, anywhere around.
So let me inject something. You just said something that it is not that the vice president, that the vice president is cash strapped. And I think by that you're trying to suggest that it's not that she doesn't have any money at all. But she made it clear that there are times that she has to ask somebody to repair her car. She said that.
Yeah.
And so this is a woman making a clear indication that she ran out of money at some point that she could not even go to work. So, how do you explain that?
See, here is it. First of all, to buy public sentiment, she has to paint a picture, a broader picture, a clearer picture of what deprivation of our immunities will mean. Okay. So, I mean, to say that you and I know, man, too well than to be told that the vice president will not go to an extent of asking somebody, like maybe to lend her money to repair her car. I mean, come on. I said before she became vice president, she did not out of the blue sky become vice president. She has served for more than 9 years as a senator of Bond County. You know this woman's background and know from where she came. This is the wife of the former president of Liberia.
And Mr. Wesseh, that is why, why I don't think a woman of this stature will try to tell a false story to buy public sentiment. That shouldn't be coming from her, isn't it?
Yeah, but here is it. You be the better judge. As I was saying, this is politics. You're discussing politics. You cannot have the vice president always feeling insecure, and you're having news coming from corridor of, other collaborating parties, basically, the CDC or the Congress for Democratic Change. Because all of the bad news about her, keep coming from that particular angle, allegedly. I mean, she has been very unsettled. She's been uneasy. So she is also a politician, a seasoned politician for that matter. She has her own way of fighting back. I think that demonstration by the vice president was a clear protest to what has been happening to her. It is not necessarily, I beg to differ, that she's cash strapped or she is so economically stranded that she had to be drawing the public's attention to. But yeah, I said you saw how the public reacted to her concerns. Even to an extent, she decided to boycott, the occasion of the President's State of the Nation address. So what I'm just trying to say, whether or not she has money, whether or not her money all dissipated in thin air overnight, the fact remains uncontested that she is entitled to her just benefits. Simple as ABC. And there should be no reason why you will be having and enjoying your own just benefits, and then you want to deprive the vice president of hers. So that was just a red flag she raised. And I can tell you, if these guys don't put their house in order, there will be, several of the kind of red flags, because she already knows that she has been fought inwardly, and there is a kind of a, purported plan to get rid of her. So the next thing, don't be surprised. I might not be a soothsayer. Don't be surprised that someday we might, receive, a resignation from this vice president if this is not curtailed, if this is not handled properly.
I would want to see that possibility, because even have said that she have had that thought, not one time, but several times. But let me bring this part in. Earlier, you made reference to an audio tape from CDC Chairman Moma Molu.
Yeah.
In the audio tape, he revealed that there have been plans for the vice president to be removed so that she can be replaced. Bay 12 is somebody you refer to who is bent on pocketing or lining up his pockets of money. But we will get to that part later on. My question is that when the president had the opportunity to respond to that audio tape, leaked audio tape, she referenced those who were talking about it as racketeers. And even Moma Monroe himself consider it as liquor talk.
Sure.
But the vice president seems not to believe that that was liquor talk and that Moma Monroe was telling the truth. So I'm confused now who to believe, who's telling the truth here.
You know, look, my brother, I have never tasted alcohol since birth. And I don't mean to condemn those who take alcohol. But from what I know, they said there is wisdom in the wine. Trust me, if you went in a village, never underestimate the accessions of a drunk. If you went to a village and want to know the secrets of that village, when you see a drunk and he decides to speak to you about things in that village, don't take it for granted. Exumi Banada meeting that the chairman of the CDC, Mr. Molu, was under the influence of alcohol, as he claimed. Here is my own take. Okay? This is the chairman of the ruling establishment, and his assertions cannot be easily or should not be easily overlooked. What efforts has the legislature made to invite him and find out from him, asking some of the hard questions, and ascertain as to whether at the time he made these assertions, he was under the influence of alcohol? Who determines that he was actually under the influence of alcohol? Is it by his own assertion? Look, my man, let's just leave that for another time. Okay? So the vice president has got every good reason to come to attention owing to what you heard on those recordings. And this has been my problem with us Liberians. We take everything for granted, and this is no reason. This is all of the reason why we are lacking behind amongst the Committee of Nations. We are at a snail pace in terms of development and other stuff. We overlook those things that matter. How can such recordings come out and up to now, it has been placed under the carpet as usual, like other investigations? So, man, look, let's talk so and talk so. I'm not an admirer of the vice president. I have never in my life ever seen her besides on television or whatever. We've never had a face-to-face con. I don't know her from anywhere. I have never liked, her associations in the past, even though I've got no reason to indict her. But the fact that she's from the National Patriotic Party, a party that is on record to have taken state power through the power of guns and forced its way into state power, I got problem with them. That's my personal opinion. So that's one of the basic reasons why we don't have that kind of intimacy, that kind of proximity. However, she is my leader, and I must at all times respect her just as I respect the president and other statesmen, other officials of the state. We cannot. Yeah.
I want to give you the opportunity to correct something that you just said, that the MPP, the MPFL, no, the MPP, sorry, MPFL was transferred to MPP as a political party. You just said that they gained political power through the barrel of the gun. I thought they metamorphosized, the MPFL metamorphosized into a political party called the MPP that contested election and won over 70%. So how can you say that they used the barrel of the gun? Explain that.
Okay. So what will you say about the NDPL, right? Of the defunct NDPL? No, I think NDPL still exists as a political party. The one who standard, the late Samuel Doe, wasn't, most of the actors, the architects of that particular political arrangement are those who, took state power through the barrel of gun by overthrowing Talbot in 1980. And they later morphed into a political party, and they came from being the People's Redemption Council to, the NDPL, right?
Okay.
So the conglomeration of those who made up that party, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that those are people who came to power through the barrel of the gun. So the NPP, the National Patriotic Party, is an offspring of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia that was headed by, Mr. Charles Taylor and all of his, warlords and whatever. So, and all of those political parties that came through the barrel of the gun, one way or the other, they kind of, I wouldn't say impose themselves on the Liberian people, but they have so much influence, and the Liberian people, for some obvious reasons, decided to give them a chance to see whether they could provide good leadership. That's how they came to state power.
You think they used fear, and Liberian people were traumatized that if Taylor had not become the president, they would not have had the peace they have wanted at the time. And so that's why you are trying to say that they used the power of the gun, because the guns were fearful.
Yeah, I strongly believe that. You know, when you have a situation where people were just recovering from brutal civil war, where you know blood was shed as a result of power struggle and blah blah blah, and those people who were the architects, who were the main actors in a civil crisis, were now saying, look, we have come with this, you know, insurrection because we think we can do it better, we can provide a better leadership. People will say, oh well, let us give them a chance. Who knows if they lose the elections, they couldn't run back to the bush. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah, people nursed that kind of a fear, and that is why you saw the kind of overwhelming, you know, support. It was like, look, let us see what they've got to offer. They fought for this thing, you know, and whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. This is a Monday special with the advocate, Franklin K. Wesseh, and I am your host, Anthony C. Yeah, as Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. But today we are having a serious conversation with advocate Franklin K. Wesseh. I have something to show you, and yeah, it is. This is the Vice President Instagram page, and she posted, there are two powers in the world. One is the sword and the other is the pen. There is a third power, stronger than both, the power of women.
Wow.
So that is the Vice President there telling us that there are two powers.
Yep.
The power of the sword, the power of the pen.
Yep.
And that there is a third power.
That is stronger than both.
That third power is the power of women or woman power. So she knows about woman power, and she's crying baby. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't think it is necessarily crying baby. I think what she's trying to do, she is really trying to remind us, you know, about the strength of a woman. And I agree with her. Even for those of us who are Christians, you know, if you go to the Bible, you see how much influence women had on men. For an example, look at the case of Samson, the strongest man. I mean, the man who could just handle a lion with his bare hands and kill it. The way that Samson could be overcome was soon introduced by a woman. A woman's strength should not be underestimated. Look at the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. Why were they driven out of the garden? It was again the influence of a woman.
Let me interrupt. Are you suggesting that, you know, because the stories you are telling is about a woman some way, somehow using or influence, you know, based on the potential of a womanhood, right, to get certain things done. Are you suggesting that, you know, she might be thinking about that, or she talking politically here?
Exactly.
Okay.
Overlook her, take her for granted at your own peril. And she has a reason for recounting that very assertion and posting it on social media for the world to see, for all Liberians to see. Yes, we even have the saying that, you know, those two powers, the pen and the sword, we say the pen is mightier than the sword. But there is something that is mightier than both combined, and that is the strength of a woman. You don't take it for granted. I think she must be relishing, you know, a kind of a fight back. She must be relishing.
Does that suggest to you of a vice president who having to be a mother and a woman resolve to take a stand politically?
Oh, you and I know also that in the event that she is continually fought as she is alleging, you don't corner the snake. For an example, or any wild beast, you were moving to it and it tries to avoid you, it tries to, run for its life, and then you corner it in a kind of a situation that it has got no way to move further or to escape from you. Do you know what's going to happen? It's obviously going to fight back to protect its life, because there are two things. It is either it fights back to overpower you, or it dies in the process. So that is why you find out when you corner it, and to a point that it cannot escape any further, it turns back and facing you, and it's prepared for the fight. Either it gets killed, or it probably, kind of overpowers you. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say, she must have, a motive behind that post. And I am using my own little sense of reasoning to portray what she really, might be thinking. That, hey, look, you might be taking me for just a woman, but you probably have forgotten the strength of a woman. I have the ability to fight back. Mind you now, I am from a constituency that is, I mean, really, really noted for guerrilla and intellectual warfare. Oh yes.
All right.
So
maybe from a constituency that is politically rich or fertile. All right. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is focused on Liberia. I have something again to share with you here.
Okay.
All right. And let me see. Now, as you can see here, and let me read for you and also for our audience following, walking into February with a prayer and a plan. This will also share on the Instagram page of the Vice President, walking into February with a prayer and a plan.
Yep.
It's the plan that she will resume work. She will take all her responsibility as President of the Senate and preside, and make sure that anything that doesn't smell well is kicked out of the house. What do you think that is?
Well, for a person who has not known rest since she became Vice President, and telling you now that she's walking into a new month, a new year with prayer and plan, a plan is usually confidential. It's usually confidential. Anybody who exposes his plan or her plan will be doing so at his or her own detriment. Because when you allow people know what your plan is, they might be able, to counter your plans and prevent you from achieving your goal. So if she says she's walking in with a plan and prayer, I think she has got a goal, a set goal that she's going to work towards, maybe the coming years, and she wants to back that up with prayers, because yes, I'm told she's a prayerful person. But again, as I said, you never know what a person's plan is, and you don't want to overlook what the plans are, because you can only overlook a particular thing when you know what it is. She has her plans, and she knows what she wants to achieve.
Thank you. And earlier, when I have asked you to talk about the power of the pen, the power of the sword, and the power of the woman, I know you analyzed that, but I'm going to take you back. Do you want to think that at some point in her political life, the Vice President have ever used the sword or only the pen?
Well, first of all, I think this Vice President, as far as my knowledge can serve me, even though she was married to a warlord, I don't have any record of her physical, involvement in the Liberian Civil War. If anybody has, you can furnish me with that, because I'm bent on ensuring people who perpetrated mayhem and atrocities are made to account for the deeds. But the pen, I would say yes. The Vice President is one of the most powerful women in our country. If you want to count powerful women in Liberia, you might want to begin with Madam Ellen Justice Ali, Ms. Lima Bowie. The Vice President will be like third in that form of rating. She has used her pen more, and I don't know, I can't say more. She has been using her pen, because I don't have any record of her using the sword. No.
All right. Will you want to think or believe that she has benefited from the power of the sword at some point in her life?
Oh yes, sure. If as a young woman coming up, and one of the dearest to former President Charles Taylor, you know, who was a rebel leader. How couldn't she? I mean, those were the times that the guys were. I mean, the economy of the state was just at their feet. Those were days that we were in a state of anarchy, and they could just make a move of anything they wanted to. She was married to Taylor, and you and I know how much Taylor exploited our country as a rebel leader and subsequently as a president. So she benefited an awful lot. She is where she is today, you know, as a result of you know, her affiliation or her marriage to ex-President Charles Taylor.
All right. Again, folks, in cyberspace, as you can see, Advocate Franklin K. Wesseh is not missing a word in analyzing issues.
Yes. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just before you leave this Joel Howard Taylor's thing, I don't know whether you're coming.
No, I have one more question on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
no
I have one more question on that. And let me bring that. And before that question, I have another thing to show you.
Okay.
From the Vice President. The Vice President on her Instagram page also shared this for the whole world to see. And this is why it says, you, Liberia, why are you not growing? All your friends are now grown up. And in the cartoon here, you see Liberia here looking at a child, but with a man face, looking so angry, more like a dwarf. But you see Sierra Leone here, looking, smiling, healthy, and you see Guinea, a beautiful woman. And then Africa's far right, my far right, and I don't know what she's trying to communicate here. And to those listening to us, I am thinking the Vice President, in my opinion, should also be able to promote a better image of the country.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it is accomplished in the particular graphic. What is her message in your opinion?
And I think she did the honorable thing to paint a clearer picture of what is obtaining in our country. Look, we can be pretentious about why Liberia is at a snail pace amongst the Community of Nations. Liberia is, I know sometimes when I hear this thing, I just laugh about it, the oldest republic in Africa, endowed with so much resources, with a small population. How come we are lacking this behind? How come that today, after over 170 years, we cannot connect Cape Mount to Cape Palmas? How come that Liberia was the second largest producer of rubber, but we could not even produce a rubber bucket in our country? How come? How come all of the natural resources we had in that country could not be manufactured into finished products to benefit our people? How come? The reason is just simple. Because over the years, and that is not only unique to this current administration, and let me be very, very frank about this. This is an age-old problem. And we are always hoping that every successive leadership will learn from the past, will give meaning to the past by learning its lessons. If you look cleverly at what has been happening in that country, look, you know that most of our ministries were people's homes being leased. You know that, I mean, our people who were public officials, maybe for fear that their properties will be confiscated, they took the money out of this country and went and developed the already developing world and left Liberia, you know, at the mercy of the ordinary Liberian people. Because our leaders have refused to do the right things, we are always lagging behind. Don't tell me about civil war because we fought war. Sierra Leone fought war as well. Don't tell me about civil war. Rwanda fought war as well. We were not the only country that shed blood or innocent blood. Other countries did. But what have they done? They have given meaning to the past by putting in place corrective measures. They fight against corruption, something I know we're going to discuss later on. What have our leaders been doing? We have leaders who come, they will highlight and expose all of these societal ills. When they are given an opportunity to serve from the word go, they begin to expose their corrupt natures. That is why we will continue to be as tiny as we look. Let me leave you with this story. I remember one time I had an interaction with, may peace be upon his ashes, the late Councillor Charles Walker Bromsky.
Okay.
Yeah, he was one, political leader too that I really used to like sitting with to listen to. He was giving us a story. He said, "No, frankly, for the record, I'm not a Liberty partisan. I've never been a Liberty partisan." Councillor Bromsky said, Angel Gabriel and God Almighty were taking a tour of West Africa. So when they got to Nigeria, God asked, Angel Gabriel asked God, "Do you know where we are?" God said, "But Gabriel, how can you be asking me where we are? This is Nigeria." They got to Ivory Coast. Angel Gabriel asked God, "God, do you know where we are?" God said, "But this is Ivory Coast." They went to Senegal, and God said, "This is Senegal." When they came to Liberia, Angel Gabriel asked God, "God, do you know where we are?" He said, "Look, this is Liberia." He said, "Well, how do you know that this is Liberia?" He said, "Because Liberia has never changed. It has been the way it was since I, created it. Nothing has changed about Liberia." And for a point of correction, rather, when they go to Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Angel Gabriel asked God, "Do you know what this is?" God said, "No, Gabriel, where is this?" And then Gabriel had to say, "This is Nigeria." When they go to Ivory Coast, he said, "Oh, this is Ivory Coast." And when they go to Senegal, he asked God, God said, "Where is it?" He said, "Oh, this is Senegal." But when they got to Liberia, when he asked God, God just told you that this is Liberia. You don't have to ask me. Liberia is a country that has refused to grow. We have gone into a perpetual marriage with corruption and impunity. So the country is just a country where people see it as an elephant meat that people come fast, grab, and go. So that portrait, that little graphic that was portrayed by the vice president is a classic example of what is happening with us as a people, as a nation, amongst our peers within the Committee of Nations. We are lacking, we are malnourished, we are way behind there, and we're not even showing any sign of making improvements.
So if the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia can paint this picture, and now she's telling us that she's moving into February with a plan, I would think you agree with her that she's painting a realistic picture of Liberia by depicting Liberia as an angry dwarf that is frustrated and has no hope.
Sure.
Is that plan
exactly
be to rescue Liberia, or is it going to be to get at the Senate and whine?
Thank you. Look, it is like a sinner going, to make confession to a priest of his or her sin. If you want your sin to be forgiven, you must first acknowledge and admit your sins. And you must be repentant of your sins. And that is how, the priest or whoever can make intercession on your behalf, and you could be forgiven. If you want to, probably treat a soul, you must acknowledge you have a soul that requires treatment. Other than that, you'll continue to have that soul, and the soul will be worsening, and it will be worsening because you are in denial. What the vice president did was not necessarily, a negative propaganda against Liberia. It was basically to draw the attention of the leaders of Liberia to the fact that they are lacking behind, and that includes her very self, that they need to work together and make sure they right the wrongs and put into place policies that seek to benefit the mass of our people. You must, when they say economic vibrancy, it's not where the president goes to bed on an air-conditioned car, he wakes up, goes to bed on an air-conditioned, he's in an air-conditioned home, he wakes up, he runs an air-conditioned car, he goes to an air-conditioned office, and he eats whatever he wants to eat. He lives in luxury and comfort, and he few public officials are living similar life. That is not economic vibrancy. Our economic vibrancy is equitable distribution of the resources of the state for the general good of the people. And I want to emphasize equitable. I did not say equal distribution, because there is no way that there will be equal distribution of the resources. But when we say equitable, it means that every sector, everybody, one way or the other, must have some benefit of the national cake. Okay?
All right.
So let me just let my thought on this.
Right.
In the absence of that, where a handful of people will see public service, as a conduit to enrich their pockets, to inflate their pockets, and that everybody is craving for a government job, because that is how you get rich very fast overnight. And people come to public service not wanting to serve the people. If you want to make profits, you want to make money here and there, go in the private sector. I mean, that is where you are supposed to maximize profit. With government, you are a servant and you must serve.
Thank you. So what we've seen with the vice president of recent, she have come up with this plan, the February plan. And I think part of it is that she's going to work. And the first thing she has done is that there is the committee that was constituted in the Senate to investigate why staffers at the first branch of government have not been receiving their Liberian dollar pay. Our understanding is that that committee was constituted and one Senator Brown was in charge of that investigation, but it has been ongoing now for some time. There has not been any report. And the Joel Howard-Taylor, the vice president, now she's gone back to work. She's like, hey, she went back to that committee, reconstituted that whole committee, and assigned Yombly Kanka to investigate and report back to her in 2 weeks.
Okay.
This is the February plan. Get to work, investigate when necessary, help to make decisions, and make Liberia better. Are we going to see a different vice president this time around?
I just hope so. Most times when I hear this issue about investigation in Liberia has always been really laughable to me. It has been a form of.
It has been a political romance, right?
My brother, you know it. I'm hoping, since the vice president, sorry for the expression, has chosen to kick asses, let us see what she gets with that. But it is a good initiative. It's a good initiative. But let us see where it lands, because
and frankly, quickly, and don't you think that will get her into further trouble, or will that help to establish her standing? And because she cried about not being respected, will that help her in gaining the respect that she wants as a person and deserves as a human being, a vice president for that matter, by taking stance on issue?
Sure. As I said, the vice president is a seasoned politician. She's like wanting to take the bull by the horn. She's trying to stamp her authority, because she doesn't want to be like the parked car, as the case was with her predecessor. And she is sensing that her job, her position is under threat. So she wants to stamp some authority and make her relevance known. Let us just hope the intent is good, and let us hope that she tackles this with some good level of sincerity. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our more special, and we couldn't have brought a much more special with you, to you, with the man, an advocate, Franklin K. Wesseh. Mr. Wesseh is comfortably seated, and we are having a conversation on critical national issue. Let's move to our next segment, and it is the topic you as an advocate would love to talk about: corruption. My first question on this: I know you and President Weah have been very good friends. You guys know each other personally. And I also know you have never been a member of any political party, but you have been an advocate, and this government is headed by your dear friend. Is the Weah government corrupt?
Thank you. That is a very blunt question. And, when you want me to respond to this question, you will not expect a yes or no response.
Yeah.
But what I can say to you is that the Weah government has not done much to fight corruption. Corruption is not necessarily restricted or limited to, investment of, state funds or whatever. Corruption is also the abuse of power, using, your office to the disadvantage of the public. Misuse of power, misuse of public office, all those are forms of corruption, immorality, etc. And I'm not ruling out, investment. The fight against corruption has not been encouraging. I have not seen a kind of a sincere or honest fight from this government in tackling corruption. I see it even, trying to make some impressive attempts, but in my mind, those were attempts just meant to quiet down the situation for some time. This government has got to do more than it is pretending to do in tackling corruption. Because to say the government is corrupt, many might just want to tie it down to investment. And somebody will want to drag me to court now to come and prove my allegations of corruption. But what I can just say to you is that this government has not done much to fight corruption. It has not shown, it has not demonstrated, integrity in its fight against corruption. So corruption is still prevalent, and it has eaten up the fabric of our society. It is so sad that this administration, that many thought, will come and champion the cause of the masses, thereby, bringing an end to all of those vices that existed in the yesteryears, will come and, still be like in bed with the acts of corruption, So that's why I said I am not tying corruption down to, I'm not restricting corruption to, I'm not limiting corruption to the investment of public funds. I am also including the behavior of public officials, the gross disregard of our laws, no respect for the rule of law, flagrantly ignoring the code of conduct as public officials, and wanting to provide flimsy excuses for those actions. Those are all forms of corruption. Yeah.
Thank you. And frankly, if you don't mind, sit up straight a little bit so that our audience can see more of you.
Yeah.
Just sit upright a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. All right. That'll be much better. Again, folks, in cyberspace, we are having a national conversation with Advocate Franklin K. Wesseh. The topics we are discussing: number one, Joel Howard Taylor versus President Weah's administration. Now we are on the fight against corruption, and later on in the show, we'll be talking about the politics of the War Crime Code. But right now, we are on the fight against corruption, and he has just answered his first question. And my first question was, is the government corrupt? He was like, he doesn't see the government, paraphrasing him, fighting corruption as people expected. And that is his response, and he doesn't want to say it right away. I will take that, but I will put him. This is what I do. So Franklin, you said that the government has not demonstrated seriousness when it comes to fighting the vices of yesteryears.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the fact that we are discussing corruption, the government is not fighting corruption enough. And you were talking earlier about violations have been some form of corruption, immorality, abuse of power. Can you point to few specific examples of these vices that you see in the government, even though you're not ready to say that they are corrupt or is corrupt?
Oh yeah. First of all, let us begin with the quote-unquote, missing billions, where 25 million was introduced into the economy to mop up excess liquidity. There were brows raised over how that money was expended. And today, the investigation bordering on that particular mop-up exercise is still not satisfactory. Its findings are not satisfactory to the public, and there are more questions than answers. You saw public officials in their capacities as appointed officials of government, remaining in their respective positions, canvassing and campaigning for other political actors. That is a kind of violation of the code of conduct. You find people using public utility, going on going to campaigns of other others from within their fold, contesting elections and whatever. And the only excuse people who gave is that Madame Salif did that. What did you do? Some of us are on record. Even when Madame Salif's government, abused and disregarded the code of conduct in Banga, where they had a convention, and you had now Minister of Information Len Eugene Nambe serving as Secretary General of the United Party, and at the same time serving as Information Minister. He was caught on camera in Banga and campaigning and contesting rather for the position of Secretary General of the United Party. We spoke against that, and several other gross disregard for the code of conduct, like the case was in District 13, where the elections was held between Kura, Color Green, and others. You saw also, what happened in District 15 with the elections. The election, violence characterized, where you found public officials conspicuously in their various capacity defying the code of conduct and going out canvassing and campaigning, for other, public officials. These are, against international best practices. Our laws forbid that. The code of conduct was crafted as a way of regulating, the power, if I may say, of public officials. Because if they are not regulated, these guys will use their powers to marginalize the disadvantaged. So the code of conduct came into being. It was crafted out of the Constitution to serve as a kind of a guidance to public officials so that they manage their public offices and that they don't, go beyond bounds. That even the code of conduct goes on to say that our public officials must not take or accept gratuity of more than $200 United States dollars. So all of these things, when you see public officials ignoring all of that and defying all of that and repeating those acts of violations, it really speaks to the fact that they don't mean well, they are out of integrity, and they're not attempting to want to improve the system. The same system they challenged yesterday, the same calls they made yesterday, the same cries they cried yesterday, that people were muzzling our laws, that people were, ignoring our laws. Those are the same thing you found some of them repeating today.
Franklin,
yeah,
you talk about the code of ethics is one piece of governing tool that I read more than 2 times. I love it. Beautifully crafted.
Sure.
And if only we as a people can discipline ourselves, especially those in government, and live within the confines of that governing tool, we will be taking a step forward. But
exactly,
that is another story. You made reference about gratuity that should not be taken by any official of government more than 200 Liberian dollars. What the law did not say United States dollars, so I would say Liberian dollar because it's a Liberian law. Is there anybody you know? Yeah, is there anybody you know who has has gone against that particular law?
First of all, you see, I hate being personal when it comes to discussing national issues, because people might want to misinterpret it to mean that.
My question is, do you know anybody who has gone against that particular law?
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that clause.
yeah. So at a point in time, you know, we heard that the president got a gift from one of his friends. I don't know, from Burkina Faso.
You heard all the
a plane.
president said. You heard all the president said. Which one?
The president said that was a gift from his friend.
Okay.
So it still does not negate the fact that I heard.
Okay.
So, okay, the president said that was a gift from his friend. And if you want to look at the cost of that particular plane, you should know that in monetary value, it is far, far more than 200, I would say, United States dollars, because we run two currencies in our country, and the higher currency is the United States dollars.
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, let us not limit it to the president. Let us not limit it to the president. Most of our public officials are guilty of this particular, you know, allegation. Most of them, the violation of the code of conduct. Most of them are guilty of the violation of code of conduct. Most of them conduct themselves in way and manner as though we don't have laws. Most of them conduct themselves in way and manner as though they've just come to relive, you know, the same awful things they condemned yesterday. And what really gets to me the most when I hear them say, "This is our time." Like, seriously?
What does that mean to you? This is our time.
This is our time. I've
What
just
does that
understood that this is our time to meet our look. We were deprived. We were never privileged to sleep in Boulevard Hotel. We were never privileged to fly plane from Liberia to the Western world. We were marginalized. We did not benefit much from the national cake. Today, we are steering the affairs of the state. We must sleep in Boulevard every night. We must sleep in Farmington every night. We must sleep in Royal Grand every night. We must travel to the West, fly plane, fly with unnecessary people, making a government trip, and spending taxpayers' money unnecessarily. We must do all of these things because that is how people, you know, make the money, you know, from the DSP, the travel allowances and others. So we don't care how you think. We don't care. I mean, others did it here yesterday, so we must do it too. So this our time, that matter of change is not really reflecting the real intent, the real motive for which people supported you. People came so that you will make a difference, so that you will say, "Hell, this was wrong. We must do it better," and not coming to repeat what people did yesterday.
Frankly, there's this thing that troubles me. That is the plain thing we're talking about, which in my opinion is a violation of the code of ethics that the president carried on to have received a gift from a friend worth more than $200. And then the very friend that gave that plane, the president awarded a contract to that very friend in the value of 500 million United States dollars.
Yeah.
Do you think that is not bribery?
Oh, obviously, when you give something in exchange for a gesture,
right,
you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that is a form of bribery.
Because so if that is a bribery, you as an advocate, defends the laws, because you know that when the laws are violated, it sets society on a time bomb to explore, usually at the detriment of ordinary citizens. So why are you wasting time to go to the legislators, the people that represent, and say, "Hey, there's a bribery here," and according to our constitution, when a president commits a bribery, he can be impeached.
How I wish our society was civilized enough to note these things. We have a gullible society that those things that should matter don't matter. For an example, I began by saying you heard the chairman of the ruling establishment caught on an audio recording saying how this president, you know, when he took office, had gone to solicit using the country's name, and all of the benefits he got from there, he diverted to his personal use. That is what he used to build his estates. That is what he used to do this. That is what he used that. Wouldn't you consider that really troubling?
Very troubling.
If we are to establish the facts that indeed the president did those things, isn't that impeachable?
In my opinion,
the issue of the president giving in exchange to his friend a contract worth 500 million because the friend giving a plane is a form of bribery. Because maybe there was this initial agreement that, look, I'm going to give you a plane because I want that contract. Who knows? How many times did we speak to that? Okay, when we say, okay, after all, it became a bogus contract and it didn't materialize. But did he have to do that after all?
And frankly, I know we are very critical on the president, rightfully so, because he violated our laws.
Yep.
But let's look at the legislator. They were the one that rectified that agreement when, in fact, I would say many of them knew about this. They heard the president say, my friend gave me this plane. And then later on, the very friend that gave the president plane, who have the company called Iboman, was a bidder in this particular agreement. And he won the bid according to the executive mansion or by the president's office, and they sent it to the very lawmakers and to rectify it without asking the questions. Are the 5G speed too? Are they not guilty here?
There are so many 5G initiatives that legislature undertook. Let me tell you, frankly, here and to Liberians listening, you might disagree with me, but I can tell you for a fact, our problem in that country is not necessarily the head of state. He's just an individual. He's not omnipresent. He's not everywhere at the same time. Our problem in that country is that legislature. That legislature and the judiciary has also demonstrated following suit by the way it got rid of Kabina Jane and whatever. Look, let us be very practical and frank. Who do we elect to represent us? Is it the people who come overnight with money in their pockets and buy their way to our bellies? Or is it those who have lived with us in the communities who really understand what our plights are and have demonstrated by their examples that they will really champion the cause of a particular constituency or a particular district when they go to that capital? Or is it those whose hands the president holds to say, look, vote this, vote that, because this is the person I want to work with over there. I want everything that I want done to pass with ease. And the only way that works is when you elect Mr. X or you elect Mrs. Y. Must we elect on that basis, or must we elect on the basis of the good examples of what our people have lived, of what they've demonstrated with us? So when we have people being elected on the basis of those conditions that are raised, nothing good will come out of them. Those are our problem. Yes, they have some good ones there, but a bunch of them are just people whose only intent is to get rich overnight, and they don't care how their constituents feel. But I've got good message. I've got good message for those at the level of the capital. They will meet some of us at the barricade in 2023, including even the head of state. Every other person that will be vying for public office will meet some of us with God on our side, giving us long life. We will be there to erect the necessary checkpoints. It's about time that even you, see, and every other well-Liberian who has been impacting our country through these various initiatives be given a chance to serve our people. And not those ones who have gotten ill-fated wealth and want to use their wealth to find their way, in the bellies of our people. Because our gullible people who are hungry are easily carried away by their enticement, and they elect them to the capital. These guys have never stood against the president one day to call him to order. What kind of people are those? Yeah, who are they? Today, Chairman Molu, I mean, I'm not being personal, but I'm just saying this because look at this other craziness that happened. I was sitting right here. I heard that Madam Ellen Cochran was returning to Liberia, and there was this colorful welcome for her. People spreading Lapa. Oh, are you kidding me? But this is a woman that was indicted by, your predecessor, the previous regime. So when did she get acquitted? When did she go through due process? And she got acquitted, that she'll be given such a heroic welcome back home. Now, how do you expect people, even the international community, to look at you? That once upon a time, this woman was indicted by the government of Liberia on issues of corruption. And this has not been placed to rest. She is returning to Liberia under your watchful eyes. And there is this colorful ceremony at the airport for her welcome. What kind of country is this?
All right. All right, my brother, that is the Liberia we have.
Oh my
but
God.
We must fight for that new Liberia. On the issue of Ellen, I don't want us to discuss that because we have a last segment to go to, and I want us to be within time. But I just want to add that your quote, our quote system on December 9th, on the 9th of December 2019, clear Ellen of any wrongdoing. And so that's why some Liberians feel that they have to go and welcome her, even if she did nothing wrong. Why would you want to go welcome somebody who had this record? Because it reflects on you. But again, that's another story. I don't know all the facts, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's come to something that is the image that has beclouded the country due to the failure of our officials, of our government to fight corruption. I would think it's more damaging than even the corruption itself. Because when somebody get to know that you don't have a good image as a country, and I want to do business with you and your people suffer.
Sure.
Keep that in mind.
Sure.
And then let me bring the piece that you brought up earlier that I last slide because I pay attention to your main point, which is there are some government officials when they are making official trips, we include some social concubines
unnecessary
on their trips. And some of them even are dispatched beforehand so that while they are on government mission, they can be able to certify their social appetite using the resources of the people.
Yes, at the expense of the taxpayer.
At the expense of the taxpayer, even though the very taxpayers are struggling.
Sure.
So look at the image of the country because of the government's failure to fight corruption, and then touch on what I just said also.
Okay. So yes, I won't mince my words on that because that has been happening all over. And as I said, I think some of the folks have not come to terms with the belief of being there after all. It's still a kind of a fantasy to some of them. Oh, are we actually here after all? Are we actually seeing the face of the state? Oh, wow, I really fancy making a trip to the Bahamas. Or I want to travel with the minister to this place, that place. Look, let me tell you this. You cannot be a country craving for assistance, a country that admitted, or an administration that admitted to have inherited a broken economy, and then you're making all of these unnecessary expenditure. It doesn't make sense. You go and spend money anyhow. You carry people from here on trips whose impact are never felt. The only thing or good thing about them going with you is that they flew the plane with you, went there and ate food to enjoy themselves uncontrollably and came back with you. To say some of them go to present some little, policy papers to our international partners to draw, some support. No. So this is a waste of taxpayers' money, and it has not helped us in any way. And I can tell you this, look, without integrity, nothing works. Without integrity, nothing works. Integrity is completeness. It is wholeness. It is perfection. It is you doing that right thing when nobody is seeing you. Our people are not fighting corruption, honestly. And let me tell you, bad money, good money is afraid of bad environment. Nobody will want to come put their money in a system where, people celebrate corrupt people and perpetrators. You celebrate them, and somebody wants to come do investment. You say, "Oh, there is this tendency that there could be, some future embarrassment or uprising of the people because they are disenchanted. I can't put my money over there." That is why this government is really struggling. It is actually struggling.
So, Franklin, before we get to our next topic, let me bring this up. Uh, those in the government are making an argument that the folks in opposition are just making noise now. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing actually in terms of corruption that's happening. They argue that if all these noise or accusations or news about corruption were anything true at all, the very international community will now be doing business with the government. We are reminded of, they said, oh, the World Bank has just given the government $213 million to help with the liquidity issue and other fundings that have been coming. And then they said that even the issue of the donor money, you know, some of them using number consider it as the whole cover. And the finance minister described it as borrowing initiative. What do you say to that?
You know, this is, I mean, as far as I can remember, the only administration that has not really enjoyed the benefit of Uncle Sam. When I say Uncle Sam, you know that America is our partner country. And ever since we became an independent nation, America has made the highest contribution or contributions to our country in terms of, you know, driving its developmental initiatives. Under this administration, I'm seeing that America has not been too involved with giving to Liberia. And we cannot pretend about that. Are we asking why? The 213 million you're talking about, it is as though, you know, America will say, oh, look, you know, you come and take this. What they are doing now, in fact, they just commit, you know, most of that into projects, and they have the people on the ground to supervise those projects to make sure, you know, the money is used for the intended purpose. Because, frankly, they are also aware of the issues that people are raising in the country bordering on corruption. So I would just say, you know, if America or our international partners, for that matter, we want to help Liberia as they've started doing, I will welcome that. That is what I want to see happening. But trust me, we are not going to get anywhere if the intent of that particular money or donation to the country is for a handful of people to enrich their pockets, to be taking their concubines and of relatives on. You want to take your relative or concubine anywhere to fly? My young man, it shouldn't be at the expense of taxpayers' money. Take your money, spend it the way you want to spend it. Okay? So I would just say, I don't know. Okay, we kind of you left. I don't know. Is it that because a call is coming? I'm not seeing you. Okay, great. I got it. So what I would just say, yeah. Somebody tried calling me. I'm sorry for that. What I would just say, we must put in place the right mechanism that will attract our foreign partners to identify with us. And the way to do that is to be honest how we deal with situations in our country, going hard on the issue of corruption and dealing with them, and making sure that our laws are respected. Those are international best practices that are appealing to, you know, our global partners. And you see, you know, the support will be coming. You now have a situation where the noise about 16 billion came around here. And people were making it seem like containers of money got missing. You see, who could really come with that kind of noise in your country, start giving you money to do X, Y, Z with the kind of noise that we had at the time? So we must be wary of these kind of things. And I will use this initiative, this platform, to appeal to the good conscience of the president. He has really got to, you know, I mean, just withdraw a little bit, go into his own little seclusion, you know, and put on his thinking cap, and decide for himself some things that will redeem the image of his administration. Because at the end of the day, if he continues to allow these fly-by-night troopers that came, you know, to quote unquote supporting that, when it became very clear and they knew that he will win election and came around here and either passing him around here, if he's not careful, tomorrow it is him It is his name. Now when people are discussing bad governance, how do you hear the other actors? It is George Weah. It is George Weah. It is George Weah. So he needs to go in his own little seclusion and take some hard decisions.
All right. Again, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia on our Monday special with the advocate Franklin K. Wesseh. Franklin, the president, you and him are known to be friends. You know him, he knows you personally. And there's this thing people in the opposition have been saying that at some point the president became broke. I mean, you having to come so close to him. Did you get that sense at some point in his life? Because people are saying now, how can this man who was broke at some point, completely broke, now be building all these mansions around here? He acquired a church in no time. You know, he built a movie studio in no time. He's building, according to Smith Tobe, the duplexes we're talking about, the condominium, there are about 17 units according to him, and many other things the president has acquired. So do you, at some point, got to know that your friend was broke, he didn't have money?
Thank you. That's a good question. First of all, President Weah is my good friend. He is a big brother. I hold him in high esteem. But I just want to say here for the record that I've got no idea of his financial standing. He and I are not those like friends of 20, 30 years, ago. I just got to know President Weah as a person in 2012 during our old Tamil games and what have you. And thereafter, we became linked by a much closer bond. And I think I was one of those who, crusaded and heralded for his presidency. I really don't even know anything about his personal life, his private life. I don't know anything about his finances. I only got concerned that probably he did not have money when I listened to the recording of the chairman of the party, who said the man took money that was meant for the country to go and build his duplexes. So you see, he has given some of us a reason to think that he probably didn't have money, because all along it will be foolhardy for me to think that former world best, a man who played for several big clubs in Europe for a good number of years, should still have a good financial standing. All right, unless you have the chairman of the ruling establishment coming to the Liberian people in an audio recording and somebody says it's not admissible in court, but it is something that we must not also overlook, that the president took what was supposed to be for the country, he diverted to his personal use. I thought you and every other well-meaning Liberian are supposed to be adding your voice to mine to ask that Mr. Molu goes to account for the statements he made, not just coming on radio to say that, but there should be a record of him being invited by the legislature, even the NSA, to ask him some hard questions, because that is an accession that has brought the presidency to public disrepute and the president to mockery. So, for the record, I had never thought that President Weah was broke. I have always held him in a high financial standing, whilst it is true that I had little or no knowledge of what his financial standing was.
Thank you. And last question on the fight against corruption and how the government has been creating optics that suggest that it is corrupt. Are you alarmed, or were you alarmed when the 9 diplomatic heavyweights near Monrovia wrote a joint letter to the government telling the government to replace its money that it has taken from its accounts? Were you alarmed?
Yes, that was a very strong communication, even though I wasn't in the country. I had left, but I saw that, and it is something that drew my attention, because for our international partners to write such a communication to you, asking you to replace money that you took, out of whatever accounts there were, then it means that they were not happy with the way you were spending money that monies that were meant for certain projects. You see, there is embezzlement and misappropriation. They are all forms of criminality. When you embezzle, it's like you are giving a particular public fund, and you misuse or you convert that public fund to your personal use. When you misappropriate, which is also criminal in nature, if, for an example, you are giving a particular money for project X, and then you took that money to execute project B, even though in your mind you feel you did not eat the money, but you use it for another purpose, in as much as you did not get the approval of the donors, and you took that money that was meant for a particular project to another project, that is misappropriation and is a form of criminality, because you have created doubt. Why did you take the money that was meant for road, or why did you take the money that was meant for hospital and you put it to road? You told us you wanted to do hospital, and we gave you money for hospital. We should expect the hospital. And then you took the money to do road because in your mind, you needed to do road at the time. You didn't tell us about road. That's misappropriation. So when they wrote their communication, I think they realized that our money that they had, or donations they had made to the country, were being misappropriated. And that is why they were asking, refund, put back our money that we gave you. That was a huge embarrassment.
And the idea that the money was taken without their knowledge,
that is it.
That is to take something that belongs to somebody without asking for it. What is the layman term for that?
That's criminality, that's crime. That's why I said, if the money was meant for project X, and without consulting the donors, you went to execute project B, then it raises brows. It has a cloud of suspicion over it. Because before you use the money that was meant for project X for project B, you must have consulted the donors. Anything outside of that is a form of criminality.
And can the word stealing here also be applied to that behavior?
Well, for misappropriation, I wouldn't say, but what I was just trying to say, if you use what was supposed to be meant for something for another thing, then the intent for which the money was given was never achieved. That is a form of criminality. Stealing, in other words, would mean taking that which doesn't belong to you.
And that's what according to the letter, that's what they did. The letter alarmed that the government took the money without their consent, without their knowledge, that they were not authorized, and they took the money. So it's a layman term for such a behavior or stealing.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not for me to determine. What I can admit to is, by their communication, their money was taken without their knowledge. And if the government did that, it was a form of criminality.
All right, again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. For our viewers on Facebook, we posted a number for you. If you want to participate on the show, call that number, and there is also a code to that number. Enter that code, and then you will be part of the conversation. Just in case you have questions for Advocate Franklin K. Wesseh, and he will be more than glad to answer it. Look in the live feed there, you will see my name, Anthony C.A., and you will see that I posted the number more than 6 times. That is the number to call to participate on the show. Mr. Wesseh, let's move to our next segment and our final segment. That is the politics of the War Crime Code. So the TRC, following the war, recommended that there should be a war and economic crime code to investigate individuals who committed war and economic crimes. The CDC, as a political party, advocated fiercely. They were relentless. They told casted. They wanted the war crime code, even though we had a president who others believe played a major role in the war, but they wanted it anyway. And now that they have the gavel in their hand, they are seeking different sons. They have changed friends. Their new friends now are people who are actually indicted in the TRC report. Like Prince Johnson is a friend of the president today. Lebole, Alhaji G.V. Kroman. These people have pledged political support to CDC. And as a result of this, the president, the CDC, the government has been dragging its feet on the scrupulous implementation of the War and Economic Crime Code, and they are telling us no security. You go.
So thank you, and how I wish every Liberian was listening and thinking just as you're doing. That is how we can become a better people, a better country. You know, I still want to retrospect on the graphics that was, portrayed by Vice President Joa Hawatila, where you see us being dwarfed by, our sub-regional friends. It is only because we have refused over time to do the right thing. First of all, we don't necessarily need to bring an RCC to Liberia. We don't necessarily have to, implement the TRC recommendations, even though it is something that we also must respect because that was what was agreed upon. I'm not a member of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I left Liberia since 1990 when the war erupted. My auntie fled with me to exile. I did not return to Liberia until 2009. So that was 19 consecutive years of being away from a country. So you see why I kind of frown on everything that has got to do with the war, because I am a victim. I lost loved ones, and I think you and other people did. But anyway, to fast forward, how did the TRC come about? The TRC came about as a result of finding some lasting solutions to the effect of the Liberian Civil War, okay? And people agreed in principle that they will meet in Accra, Ghana, and sign an accord that way gave way for the establishment of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The act that created the TRC, Article 10, Section 8, is a Section 8 or so thereabout, is clear and unambiguous. It says that all of its recommendations, all, it did not say, but some, it said all of its recommendations must be implemented. People agreed, in principle, they affixed their signatures. The commissioners went to work. Our country used a pretty close to $8 million United States dollars of our hard-earned resources. They solicited no fewer than 20,000 testaments or testimonies where people came up and spoke, their involvement of the Liberian Civil War. What was the rationale? So that we, bury the hatchet through a palaver hut. We bury the hatchet by ensuring that some of the victims of war are integrated and they are taken care of because some had lost their families, their parents, and whatever. And we also prosecute, where necessary, those who committed the heinous crimes and atrocities. It is clear. So the TRC calls for restorative, it calls for retributive justice. It calls for the palaver hut discussion, it calls for integration, compensation, blah, 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 blah. Now, the drama became when the TRC indicted some individuals who were at the helm of authority, not excluding the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The TRC met its demise at the time Madam Sirleaf was indicted. She ran to the Supreme Court and through a stage-managed judgment, condemned the TRC for assuming unto itself the authority that it assumed. So the TRC was muzzled. It was strangulated because you had in power a president who was so, obsessed with power and was enjoying herself and didn't want anything to come her way. Does that in any way mean that the TRC had to be, placed under the carpet or thrown into the abyss where no light will shine on it at all? Then the question is, what happens to the victims? I am more particular about the victims. Those who witnessed their parents being killed right in their presence, those who saw themselves excuse me, having sex with their own parents, having sex with their own siblings at gunpoint? What happens to those pregnant women whose stomachs were opened by people who were trigger crazy, that were involved in arguments, wanting to determine the sex of a child? You see a pregnant woman coming, innocent, unarmed. You bring her right before you, you open her stomach, and you celebrate because one person has won the argument. He said it was a boy, and then indeed it was a boy. And can you imagine that act of gross human rights violation? Can you imagine that act of carnage? Can you imagine that act of atrocity? And then you have those people who were the masterminds behind those atrocities, still gallivanting, masquerading with impunity. If even you never had the RCC, what was the rationale in bringing insurrection? What was the reason why the likes of the Prince Johnson, Alhaji Nkrumah, Charles Taylor, and others decided to use arms to force their way to power? The reason was to bring an end to other forms of marginalization, cronyism, and you name all the bad forms of government. But today, those people who committed those acts are here and working with impunity. Every time you say, look, this TRC is clear and unambiguous that all of its recommendations must be implemented, people say, oh no, my man, why didn't you call for it during Ellen's time? Why now? You don't have the logistics. You don't have this, you don't have that. So people are living in a world of reason. But let me just tell you why. The reason why the folks of today who heralded for the implementation of the TRC recommendations, but are against it today, is squarely a selfish political reason. And if you ask me why, this is why. For an example, their thought is to win the 2017 elections, they had the support of, say, Senator Prince Wild Johnson, who commands a huge influence within NIMA, pledging support to them. You have Alhaji G.V. Nkrumah pledging support to them. You have the Sekou Demate Kone pledging support to them. And all of these people, they will come knocking at their doors again 2023 for them to speak to the people to give them support. So if they decide now to prosecute those people, say for an example, you prosecute Prince Johnson, his chances of ending up in jail is like you're not a 1-to-1. You will be losing the support of Nima County. You might be losing the support of where Alhaji Nkrumah, Sekou Demate, and others came from. Therefore, let the sleeping dog lie. We are not going to be the ones to implement the TRC recommendations, even though we know that this is right. But hell, we need to enjoy power. We don't want to be a one-term leadership. So to hell with the likes of Franklin Wesseh and others that are running around here. In fact, they will say, oh, they are all frustrated because they were never given jobs. Some will say, oh, that man is a good friend of the president, but because the president didn't give him a job, that is why he has gone bitter and what have you. But here's what I want to say to you. I want to paint a clearer picture of the gains that the WIAS administration will make as a result of implementing the TRC recommendations or establishing an extraordinary tribunal that will bring perpetrators and economic vampires to book, that they will have their day in court. Those that will be acquitted, and those who will experience the wrath of the gavel will bear the consequence of their acts. If President Weah is sensing fear that the people of Nima, the people of Lofa, the people of other places will not vote him because he has prosecuted their sons, he will go down in history as a good president who has left a legacy, even though he might be a one-term president. Why the desperation of wanting a second term? So you want to allow these people to be masquerading with impunity, and their victims stare at them in awe. Helplessness, look at them, and some of them can point to certain people that took advantage of them because they had the guns in their hands. Let me tell you this. I am not blaming people or calling for people to be prosecuted because they rebelled against the state. Honor our laws. We got laws on the book. When you rebel against the state or you take up arms against the state, I think that's sedition. The government of the Republic of Liberia can deal with you accordingly, just the Supreme Court. But when you indulge in gross human rights violations, for an example, you look at a pregnant woman and you open up her stomach with a raw bent knife to determine the sex of the child, that crime is not limited or restricted to Liberia any longer. It is a crime that has a global appeal, and it suffers global condemnation because that is a gross human rights violation. When you will put a woman on gunpoint and forcibly have sex with her, and maybe ask your guys with you to have repeated sex with her at gunpoint, abusing her rights, that is a gross human rights violation. When you compare a father to have sex with his own daughter at gunpoint because you harbor some hatred against him in the yesteryears, that is not a crime that is limited or restricted to Liberia. That is a gross human rights violation. When you decide to wage war or move on a particular ethnic group and take away their innocent lives, even though they did not come against you in arms, that is gross human rights violations. So I could go about enumerating, I could go about pointing out these gross human rights violations.
And frankly,
let me talk on this. I'm coming. Okay. The thing here is, why must you, Liberia, that is a signatory to all of these international treaties, be seen as a hub for gross human rights violations? Why? What picture are you painting to the international community? The Liberian Civil War that will fall, that every day people will be, oh, our war, our war, our war. What lessons have we learned? We cannot bring back the dead. We cannot undo the crimes and wars of yesterday, but we can give meaning to the past by learning its lessons. What lessons have we learned? Is the lesson allowing the likes of Prince Johnson to be moving with impunity? They are even aging. Very soon these people will die. If your government cannot bring them to justice, which government you expect to do that when some of them will not even be around? So how do they pay for their deeds? I see some friends coming under my post when I posted today, and I had a picture of somewhere though being tied and being tortured. Oh, you don't want to be reminded that that man, a certain president, was captured and he died in agony out of torture in that way or manner. You don't want to be reminded of that? You don't want to be reminded of that? And the person who did that is still very much around, and members of his constituency, his kinsmen, voted him into power. He's senator today, and other people. You don't want, you wouldn't want to be reminded of the several thousands of our brothers and sisters who straight bullet hit, who were, victimized. But you don't want to be reminded of a clearer picture of a certain president being tortured by a warlord. These and many more are things that we must say never to, no against, any day, anytime. And the only way we can do that is to ensure that those perpetrators who are still very much around are made to account for their deeds. And I'm not going to mince my words on that.
Frankly, we said that, not missing on his words when it comes to the full implementation of the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, especially the issue with the War and Economic Crimes Court. I am in agreement with you on this one. Like you may know, I have been part of the process of advocating for the establishment of the War Crime Court. You couldn't have said it much better than anybody, and I want to say thank you. We'll give you a little break and we'll read some few comments, and those who are following on Facebook, the phone number has been posted several times for you to call and participate. Let me read a few comments here, Franklin. Pale O. Rita Reto writes, the president was not completely broke. Besides, his children are millionaires, and I am sure they can assist their father if need be. She is saying the president was not completely broke. That understanding is that maybe he was broke, but not completely. I don't know what she's saying there. We have another one here by James Charlotte. In fact, in this case, the money was for the partners and not for the government to use for any property. We have Timothy Rice. The reason why America is not helping Liberia as did in the past is because of corruption. For example, 16 billion, which is equal to 106 million US dollar got missing and no one was held accountable. Orita again, why you did not impose on Ellen administration to bring thrill to these people? Give their administration time. Don't be in a hurry. She is saying that Liberian people should wait for justice, and I don't know how long they have to wait. Samuel Wright, that should have been the main reason why they should have voted JB. The person is promoting JB here because all the criminals from the past government were in support of WIA during the election, but the Liberian people show something else. All right, and then we have the phone number there for you to call and participate. Okay, Franklin, I come back to you. I think we have exhausted our three main topics, and we want to say thank you so very much. But I have this question. Do you think that if the WIA government seizes on the opportunity of implementing the War and Economic Crime Court, it will improve its human rights credentials, thereby bringing it on the side of the international community, and also will be able to assure investors that, okay, if these people can take steps to prosecute those that who are plunging the country into crisis, this is a strong deterrent, and I can carry my money in there, invest it. I can be sure that nothing will happen to it.
Exactly. I mean, you've just answered the question. Rhetorically. Frankly, the economic quagmire in the country is as a result of not wanting to take the necessary, measures in your honest fight against corruption. As I said, good money is afraid of bad environment. If you start prosecuting like the way we saw people were being arrested, former central bank governor, and I would think I can tell you, take my word, nothing's going to come out of it. The only little, it was just like a flash in the pan. Two people carry them to Beach, people who are allegedly corrupted, and then the next thing, other men will say that he's sick, he won't go take treatment. Are you kidding me? People die in jail for stealing country money and what have you. People steal, they go to jail, they spend 2 days, they say they didn't buy, their health is bad and all that. And the implementation of the War and Economic Crimes Code will surely promote our human rights credentials, because people are still looking down on us. What kind of a country is this? This country is supposed to be a role model. This country is supposed to be leading by examples. This is the oldest republic. How come these guys are not doing anything about the Liberian Civil War they fought? Over 250,000 innocent lives lost, infrastructure destroyed. They are picking up. Why aren't they giving meaning to the past? Are these people serious at all? Most of the African countries around here, we aided their independence. You know it. Okay? So, my brother, there isn't any better way I can say this thing. For me, when it comes to the quest for the War and Economic Crimes Court, I will not window dress it. I am clear until this government decides to bring perpetrators and economic vampires to book, for them to account for their deeds. I will not remain silent on this issue. Look, not when I still have breath. I will speak to it. Even if I were in government, I will tell Mr. President, if you want to fire me, you want to dismiss me, do. I'm not going to remain silent on this issue of the War and Economic Crimes Code. We must set an example so that it serves as a deterrent to would-be perpetrators.
All right. Folks in cyberspace, I am Anthony Cie, hosting on this network focus on Liberia. At this network, we educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. And we are promoting the issue of justice and accountability in Liberia. And Franklin Wesseh has been here answering the tough questions. Mr. Wesseh, anything that you wish to touch on? If not, then we will get your concluding statement. We have had you now for exact 2 hours, and we are happy that you were generous enough to give us that time. You could have made a lot of money doing something else. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the record. A lot of people have been very concerned about my whereabouts. Even you thought I was still in Liberia until today.
Yes.
Okay. I'm here in the United States, and I just want people to know that I'm passionate about ensuring we have a better Liberia. I might not be making too much of the noise that maybe other advocates really make. I'm not condemning them because everybody has got his own style, but I have my own way of getting a message across. I think Liberia deserves better. I think the we-are-led government has got to step up its game. And I want to say this to the Liberian people. Those of you who are using surrogates, to get at me, coming in my inbox and threatening and saying all sort of nonsense, you can't scare me away from Liberia. I committed no crime. I'm only saying let people account for their deeds. If you consider that a crime, then you may call me a criminal. But I'm not going to fall prey to your tactics. If you mean well for Liberia, you better start speaking to the hard issues and speak truth to power. The issue of President Samuel Doe's picture that I posted today, I saw that some of our folks, especially from the Crown ethnic group, they felt injured. And some of them were saying that we've put this behind us. No. You've not put it behind you. The reason why you've not put it behind you, you are, hanging on a kind of a cow feces reconciliation. Because here is Nibai and Grandjide. In your mind, you think you've reconciled. You haven't. You haven't. Every time a kinsman of Samuel Doe comes in confrontation with a son of or daughter of Nimba, there is that hard feelings. Every time, the Mandigo ethnic group, comes in contact with, say, the Gio or the Crown or whatever, you see in no time that hard feelings is ignited. It means we're not reconciled. Reconciliation is only achievable when you have justice. And you can only have lasting peace when you have reconciliation. You see how connected these things are. It's like a chain. One hooks the other. If one slacks from the other, you can hold together. You cannot have lasting peace when people are not reconciled. You can build all of the streets, glass streets all across the country, and build skyscrapers. If people don't have dignity, human dignity, if people don't feel respected, if people don't feel that their rights are being respected, they will rebel. They will always break down all of those infrastructure and bring the country back to square one. So the way to do it, you must heal the wounds. You heal the wounds by making sure people are made to account for their deeds. That is why people who got involved with the World War I, World War II, and thereby people committed, they went after them even when they were in their very old ages. 90 plus, some of them were arrested, and they had their day in court, and then they bore the penalty of their acts. Such should be the case of Liberia. Okay, so let me just use this time to conclude, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you can conclude.
Okay. Yeah. My conclusion is that Liberia is bigger than any individual. The WIA administration must not concern itself necessarily with winning elections 2023. You could win elections on a platter of gold, provided your fight against corruption is honest, is sincere, provided you do the right things, you implement the TRC recommendations irrespective of who supported you, do just the right thing, and you are going to leave an enviable legacy. Some of us made the case for a WIA's presidency when most of you thought it was impossible. So we want to say, frankly, we said, doesn't wish George Weah evil. I want the best for him because his success is my success, is all of our success. If he fails, we all fail, and we must say no to failure. Thank you very much.
Frankly, we want to say thank you. We appreciate your time here. Folks in cyberspace, this is how we'll come to the end of our broadcast. We also want to thank you for staying with us for almost 2 hours. Thank you. And this is how we come to the end of the broadcast. This broadcast will be on YouTube in the next 2 hours. all our programs here can be uploaded on YouTube. So if you miss any, you can go to YouTube. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Focus on Liberia, and this is how I would do it from here. My name is Anthony Sie, and bye-bye. Bye-bye, Franklin.
Bye. Thank you very much.